Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. So the Overwatch League is well underway, or at least it is behind the scenes. When this video goes out, the 12 Overwatch League spots will be finalising their rosters and making sure that they're ready to announce them either next week or at the end of October. There's been a lot of cause for concern when it comes to the Overwatch League and whether we'd actually see it at all. But in this video we want to talk about the good things that the Overwatch League is going to provide for players and supporters alike, but also still that there are a few problems that the Overwatch League needs to watch out for. And we'll go over that in a second. Before we focus on the bad, I really want to focus on the good things that Overwatch League is bound to provide and all of the issues that it's solved along the way. The first being that it is actually going to happen. This was a big concern from a lot of people when it comes to how the Overwatch League was going to work, how much time it was going to take to get set up. And whilst it didn't hit the time plan that the Overwatch League wanted to, which was essentially to start now, and all of the funding behind it. And that goes on to the second point. The idea of the Overwatch League, using high quality investors that have spent a lot of money on these slots, has actually worked. When you hear some reports that each of the slots was worth about $50 to $20 million, you really wondered if any former company was going to invest that much money into an esports scene which hasn't been around for all that long. Especially when you compare it to the likes of League and Dota that have much smaller buy-ins for slots. It was a big ask for a lot of companies that weren't afraid to actually take the plunge when it mattered. This has caused a lot of problems which we will get onto a second, but again, just the fact that the Overwatch League is actually coming to fruition and it hasn't really had to cut corners with what it wants to do and how it wants to approach this style of esports in this way. It's always been an optimistic, ambitious project that could have easily backfired, but the main crux of the problem, which has a lot to do with the business side and the teams and who's going to be where, is starting to get put together, which is one of the most exciting things about the league so far. Whilst I do want to see these teams play against each other with real backing behind them, the excitement to not knowing what teams are going to have what players is quite good, and it reminds me certainly of football and the transfer deadlines. Next up is the hint that there's going to be a new spectator system, and this is going to be present at the World Cup. The spectating in Overwatch has been somewhat hard to follow, and it's been one of Overwatch's biggest cruxes when it comes to the esports scene. As somebody that does a bit of part-time casting for fun, it is incredibly fun to do, but it's also very difficult to follow everything that's going on and to really point out good plays when the spectator camera isn't on a play that you want to highlight, and it's just impossible to keep up with everything, and it's very much try to catch a waterfall with a paper cup. It's always going to overflow and you won't be able to catch everything that's happening. The spectator system has the backing of the likes of Doa, Monte Cristo, Uber, who are all people that have worked with Overwatch and Overwatch League for quite some time, and people like Monte Cristo aren't going to really tone down on what they say. If they thought the new spectator system was shit, then they would definitely say so. For the fact that the spectator system has their backing makes me think that this is everything the spectator system should be, and thus hopefully esports from now on is going to be so much easier to watch. If you want to see the new spectator system in show, then certainly look out for it at the World Cup. Next up is the branding. I've never been much of a fan of the US style of branding for some teams, but I will make an exception for the Overwatch League. Whilst we don't have an idea of what all of the teams and all of the logos and all of the brands are going to be at this point, the likes of Shanghai Dragons, Dallas Fuel, and to name some of the other leaked potential names, Miami Mayhem, Los Angeles Gladiators, you get the idea. They're all pretty interesting names, and they all come with new skins as well, as we've seen from Shanghai and Fuel so far. I've always appreciated the idea of having localized esport teams. If I was to say to you who would you like to win out of Cloud9 and Dignitas, you wouldn't really have much of an opinion if you don't follow esports. Most of you know that Dignitas haven't really been in the scene for quite a while now. But if I said how about London versus Philadelphia, some of you Brits might instantly go, oh, we're gonna go for London, obviously, you know, like UK is our city. Europeans might go for London as well, going against the US team, and you start to see the idea. Localized teams allow players to actually almost instantly support a team in a setup, whereas when it's an endemic organization, you don't necessarily care as much. That's why I'm a supporter of Hull City in football, not because they're a great team, because hell, they're not. It's because I'm from Hull and my family are from Hull. It's almost as if I didn't get to pick what team I supported, I just had to support them because they were my hometown club. So you started to get the idea of how this localized esports idea is actually quite a clever thing and why it's used a lot in sports as well. And finally, to finish on the good things, the Overwatch Arena looks amazing. We saw a bit of that at the Contenders Grand Finals, and also the search of talent. Blizzard have put out a big casting call for casters, analysts, people on the touchline for interviews to talk to the pros and stuff that we'll be playing. It's a really big collaborative collective effort, and I think it's starting to come into play. However, there are a few problems that this has caused. The first being that this has been a very ambitious project and it's taken this long to get sorted. A lot of organizations that were really keen and interested in having a slot in the Overwatch League just have disappeared and dissipated completely because there was no funding, no other companies were going to put money into the Overwatch League, and essentially Blizzard had a big grip on the Overwatch esports as a whole. So stuff like the ESL Atlantic Showdown, E-League, all of that kind of thing wasn't going to happen until the Overwatch League came to life. Essentially, since last BlizzCon when the Overwatch League was announced, there have been no major tournaments other than the likes of Contenders and Overwatch Pit, Carbon Series, but none have been on the same level as the Atlantic Showdown and E-League, and also the MLG Las Vegas thing that we saw at the end of 2016. Next up is probably Overwatch's biggest challenge. The esports viewership for Overwatch is pretty low in comparison to League, Dota, and even PUBG at this point, even though there's been no real PUBG tournament since Gamescom. This might be a lot to do with the spectator system, but there is a big gulf between the casual players of Overwatch, which there are a lot of, 30 million accounts remember, to those that actually watch the esports scene and take a big interest in that. So this is Overwatch's biggest problem, and if they want to be a huge success and make sure that they can get the revenue there, they need to make sure that Overwatch has a stronger viewership than it does now. Next up is the death of EU. There's only going to be one EU team in the Overwatch League, which is London, and from the looks of it, it's going to be pretty much the full team of Kongju Pantera, which is a full Korean roster. There are EU players dotted all across the US teams, but still there's no full EU roster, there's no other EU teams, and not to mention the games of the Overwatch League are going to be played around 5 AM our time, meaning that we won't really get to watch these games either. This was obviously another big concern that seems to have come to fruition when it comes to the Overwatch League, which is that EU is going to suffer like it has done ever since Overwatch esports has kind of taken off. Some of the best players are from the EU, and looking at the likes of Gigantic, which has been a full Finnish roster, they will be in the Overwatch League, and a lot of good EU players will be in the Overwatch League either. Some players have also been screwed over when it comes to the Overwatch League as well, been part of endemic organizations that have contracted them until this week, so they only have 1 week to find a team, and most of them have locked in their rosters already. There's a hell of a lot of talent there that we just won't see in the Overwatch League because they've been screwed over by endemic organizations. Some even rumored to put buy-ins when it comes to even just trying out these players. We do have the likes of Contenders as a sort of second division that some of these players can form teams in and be picked up for future Overwatch League seasons, but in reality a lot of these players should be in the league. You have some players asking to sort out teams for Contenders Season 2 instead of looking at the Overwatch League, which is frankly a damn shame and shouldn't have happened in the first place. And again, probably one of the biggest problems with the Overwatch League is just normal competitive ranked play. Jake put out a rather concerning tweet talking about competitive people will seek competition elsewhere just because the ranked experience isn't competitive, it isn't fun, because you have the likes of One Tricks and others ruin it for other people. Now Blizzard wants this form of grassroots esports, and that starts with a competitive season. The top 500 players that are climbing, making a name for themselves, that can form teams with other people there that can then enter the open division and Contenders and eventually find a spot in the Overwatch League. This is the whole idea of Crusher 99, right? The whole thing that the Overwatch League was based around. This one player that could climb from absolutely nowhere to become the biggest name within Overwatch, and when you have a competitive scene that is frankly this bad, you are not going to find these players. There's not going to be that opportunity for very talented players that are just playing normally in their bedrooms that really have the ambition and potential to become some of the better players in the world in Overwatch. Whilst it's been a big ambitious project for Blizzard to set up the Overwatch League, they really need to focus on the little aspects, and it starts with everybody else's ranked experience. How they fix that, it's not just going to be a simple call for PMA, I'm afraid, but we'll have to see on that. But anyway, that's everything that I wanted to go over with the Overwatch League. There are some really good things, and it's nice to see that it's actually going to begin. I think it's going to be a little bit screwed to begin with. It's not going to be perfect, but that's fine. I'm just glad that it's here, and hopefully with some of the bad, more concerning things that we've gone over in this video, they can really iron these out and make sure that this experience with the Overwatch League is prestigious, important, and most of all the vision that Blizzard had when it came to the Overwatch League. Thank you very much for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, take care. We'll see you then.